you to close your eyes for a second and just indulge me in a massive, almost cinematic thought experiment.
Okay, I'm ready.
So imagine you belong to a society, like an entire species, that was deemed completely undesirable. And not just disliked, I mean systematically cast out.
Right, totally exiled.
Exactly. You are forcibly thrown off the edges of the map, pushed into the absolute freezing dark of the unknown, and told to never, ever return. Your people are just forgotten.
Forgotten by the rest of the universe.
Yeah. Now, imagine surviving that. Against all odds, you don't just survive, you actually thrive in the darkness. You master it.
Which is wild to even think about.
It's insane. And then, 500 years later, the very people who banished you, the descendants of the ones who threw your ancestors away to die, they come crawling back.
Because their universe is burning.
Right. Their universe is burning and they are begging you for your lives. You hold their absolute salvation or their total destruction literally in the palm of your hand. What would you do?
I mean, it is the ultimate ethical and really philosophical crucible. It's so comforting to think we'd all just take the high road.
Oh, for sure. We all want to be the hero.
But the reality of harboring 5 centuries of generational trauma makes that choice infinitely more complicated.
Yeah.
When you've been relegated to a cosmic graveyard, that instinct for retribution is baked into your cultural DNA at that point.
That tension, that staggering choice is the absolute heart of our mission today. We are doing a deep dive into this sweeping, just massive narrative from our sources titled The Guardians Beyond the Map.
It's such a brilliant narrative.
It really is. It is, at its core, a story of profound betrayal, unimaginable forced evolution, and what might be the ultimate test of a civilization's character.
And we're going to break down the logistics of this exile, the actual physics of their survival, and the terrifying realities of the threats they eventually have to face.
Because there's a lot to unpack. But to really grasp the weight of this narrative, we need to establish the baseline of the universe we are examining.
Right, the setting is crucial. The text paints this picture of a vast established order. It's a galactic council that rules over 10,000 distinct worlds.
10,000. Just wrap your head around that.
Exactly. Think about the sheer administrative inertia of a 10,000 world bureaucracy. It's this massive, deeply entrenched system. And into this ancient, rigid structure steps humanity.
Us, the loud new neighbors.
Yeah, we are described as the newest species to join the stars. And almost immediately, we become the most disruptive element in the entire galaxy.
And the reasons given for that disruption are deeply, deeply revealing. Because to understand the staggering ending of this story, and I promise you the ending is a total paradigm shift, we have to look at the original sin of this galaxy.
Why we were kicked out in the first place.
Right. Why was the human race pushed off the map? The sources are very clear here. Humanity wasn't exiled for being a physical threat.
No, not at all.
They weren't banished for being physically stronger, and they weren't exiled for having superior technology. They were exiled because they simply refused to submit to the status quo.
And the examples provided of humanity's quote-unquote crimes are fascinating when you view them through a sociological lens.
Oh, totally. What did they actually do wrong?
Well, whenever an empire threatened a weaker species, humans intervened. Whenever pirates attacked trade routes, human fleets hunted them down. And crucially, whenever corruption spread through the council, humans exposed it.
They were the whistleblowers.
Exactly. If we use a biological framework, humanity was acting as the galaxy's immune system. We are actively fighting off the infections of corruption, piracy, and predatory imperialism.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to a profoundly corrupt power structure, an active immune system looks exactly like an autoimmune disease.
That is the tragic irony here. The Council didn't see humanity as healers. They saw us as a fatal threat to their carefully balanced, albeit corrupt, ecosystem.
It's like an entire police precinct firing the one honest detective because they're making everyone else look bad.
That's a perfect analogy.
Mm.
The Galactic Council valued stability over morality. An empire subjugating a weaker species might be morally wrong, but to the Council, it was a known variable. It was stable.
Right. They could predict it.
Yes, humanity crashing in to save the day was unpredictable. And bureaucracies, especially ones spanning 10,000 worlds, they fear unpredictability way more than they fear evil.
I kept thinking about historical parallels while reading this. It feels incredibly similar to the late Roman Empire.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, you have this massive, bloated administrative state that is obsessed with its borders and its internal political games. They don't really care about justice in the provinces. They just want the grain shipments to arrive on time and for nobody to rock the boat.
Right. Just keep the machine running.
Yeah, and then humanity comes in acting like this rogue, idealistic faction that actually believes in the laws the Empire only pretends to uphold. And the Empire doesn't reform, it purges the idealists.
Which is exactly what happened. The great powers just grew tired of the disruption. They united. The source describes it as, and this is a great quote, one vote, one decision, one betrayal.
Chills, just chills.
They declared humanity a threat to galactic stability. But the sheer logistical execution of that betrayal is what's truly staggering to me.
Right, because how do you even do that?
The text notes, Earth's ambassadors were arrested, colonies were dismantled, and every single human ship was forced beyond the edge of known space.
This is where I got stuck for a long time. The physical logistics of uprooting an entire multiplanetary species. I mean, you're talking about billions of people
Gillian.
tearing down homes, dismantling entire generations of infrastructure, and packing a whole species into ships to be marched out into the literal void. How do you even enforce that without causing a species-wide extinction event right there on the launch pads?
You enforce it through an overwhelming, unified military presence. The Council fleets likely blockaded every human world, offering just a harsh binary choice.
Yeah.
Get on the diaspora ships or be bombarded from orbit.
Wow. Just comply or die.
Consider the psychological weight of this moment for you, the listener. Imagine looking up at the sky of your home world, seeing thousands of alien dreadnoughts eclipsing the sun, and knowing you have a matter of weeks to pack your civilization into cargo haulers.
It's horrifying, and the source gives us this haunting image of the departure. It says, as the last convoy disappeared into the darkness beyond mapped stars, millions watched from their worlds.
The aliens watching the humans leave.
Yeah. And they fully assumed they were watching a funeral procession. They believed humanity would simply die out there in the dark.
Which, logically, brings up a massive question. You throw billions of humans into unmapped space with no supply lines, navigating cosmic storms and totally uncharted navigational hazards. Biologically and sociologically, how does a species survive that without instantly fracturing into civil war over dwindling resources?
I mean, they probably did at first, right? The sources describe the early years as an absolute bloodbath.
It wasn't clean.
Not at all. Entire fleets just vanished into strange cosmic storms or were hunted by unknown predators between the stars. It wasn't some peaceful resettlement, it was a complete meat grinder.
But the pivot point in the narrative is adaptation. The text notes they push deeper into the void, and they find an ancient network.
The ruins.
Yes, ruins from a civilization older than every species in the galaxy combined. And hidden beneath these dead worlds are machines capable of rewriting reality itself.
Okay, let's pause here and really evaluate what rewriting reality means in a hard science fiction context.
We aren't talking about better lasers or faster engines.
Right. The text implies the manipulation of fundamental forces, gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, and finding this technology is a terrifying variable.
It's incredibly dangerous.
It really is. Handing reality-bending technology to a traumatized, starving, exiled species is statistically a recipe for accidental self-annihilation. Here's where it gets really interesting, but also terrifying. You're a struggling, exiled species, and you find these machines. That's like handing a toddler a lit match in a fireworks factory.
That's a very accurate way to put it.
Imagine you're one of those human scientists on a freezing, dead world. You have a machine that can rewrite gravity, but if you carry the one wrong number in your calculations, you might accidentally collapse your own solar system into a singularity. How do you even test that?
You don't, unless you are absolutely sure.
Right. The margin for catastrophic error isn't just high, it's infinite.
And you survive that danger through extreme cultural discipline. The text emphasizes that humanity didn't just push a button and become gods overnight.
No, it took time.
They studied these relics decade after decade, century after century. This wasn't a sudden leap. It was a slow, incredibly deliberate, generational mastery.
Generational science is such a fascinating concept to me. I mean, we struggle to maintain funding for a 10-year space probe in our current reality.
Yeah, our attention spans are so short.
Imagine a society where a scientist spends their entire 80-year lifespan deciphering one microscopic function of an alien machine, knowing they will die before they ever see it turned on, simply so their great-grandchildren might understand the foundational math.
It's a level of dedication we can't really fathom. That kind of focus requires a society completely unified by a single purpose.
Exactly.
And that shared trauma of the exile, combined with the existential necessity of understanding these machines, it forged an entirely new human identity.
They changed fundamentally.
They did. The source explicitly states that eventually humanity became something completely new. Not an empire, not a republic. The petty squabbles, the resource wars, the political maneuvering that characterized their time in the Galactic Council, they left all of that
It
behind.
outgrew it.
Right. In the absolute isolation of the void, completely free from the Council's interference, they transformed into a civilization of explorers, builders, and protectors.
They spent 500 years turning themselves into the ultimate idealized version of a civilization.
The absolute best-case scenario of what humanity could be.
But isolation is a luxury you lose when your neighbors accidentally set the universe on fire.
Here comes the conflict.
Yeah. 500 years post-exile, a threat emerges from the far rim of the galaxy. The source calls them the Void Swarm.
And the description of the swarm shifts the narrative from political science fiction straight into cosmic horror.
It's terrifying.
Because these are not ships built in dry docks.
Oh.
The text describes them as living warships larger than planets, biological weapons capable of consuming entire systems.
Okay, I need to wrap my head around the biology of a planet-sized organism, because standard biology falls apart at that scale.
It completely breaks down.
Right. If a creature is the mass of a planet, how does it not collapse under its own gravity? How does its nervous system even communicate? If you poke a whale, it takes a fraction of a second for the brain to register it. If an organism is 10,000 miles across, neural signals traveling at the speed of chemical transmission would take hours.
Which suggests they operate on entirely different physical principles.
They have to.
They're perhaps utilizing quantum entanglement for neural pathways, or they have specialized anti-gravity organs to maintain structural integrity. They likely feed on stellar radiation or strip mine the atmospheres of gas giants just to maintain their caloric intake.
Just to survive.
Right. This isn't a military force. It's a migrating apex predator on a galactic scale.
And how does the mighty Galactic Council respond to a galactic apex predator? With rigid, bureaucratic military doctrine.
Of course they do.
The source notes they deployed millions of warships. Millions. But those standard mechanical fleets lasted exactly 3 months against the swarm.
3 months, that's nothing.
A 10,000-world bureaucracy, the pinnacle of galactic power, was utterly dismantled in 90 days.
It is the ultimate failure of their obsession with stability. The Council's military was designed to fight other standard navies. Trading laser fire, holding choke points, negotiating treaties.
You cannot negotiate with a biological force of nature.
Exactly. Their millions of ships were basically just plankton for this swarm. Worlds are burning, stars are going dark. The institutions that exiled humanity are now facing total, unmitigated extinction.
It's like an HOA that kicks out a resident for having an ugly fence, and 500 years later, their house is on fire, and that exiled neighbor happens to own the only fire truck in existence.
That is painfully accurate.
And in that moment of absolute paralyzing fear, someone in the council chambers remembers the old legends. The forgotten species pushed beyond the map.
The ghosts in the dark.
Imagine the sheer desperation required to launch that expedition. You are crossing into dangerous, unmapped sectors of space, chasing a 500-year-old ghost story.
It's a Hail Mary pass.
You don't even know if humans survive the cosmic storms, let alone if they would entertain the idea of speaking to you without immediately blowing your ship to dust.
The psychological state of the Council's ambassador on that expedition must have been a blend of absolute terror and profound humiliation.
Oh, they had to be sweating bullets.
But they cross the threshold and they find them. And the visual scale of this encounter completely shatters the Council's understanding of the universe. The expedition arrives at a gigantic structure orbiting a black hole, a gateway larger than entire moons.
And out come the human warships. But the text says they look nothing like ships. They look like moving cities. Artificial stars glowing inside gigantic rings.
The scale is just unmatched.
A single human vessel dwarfed the largest council dreadnought. The technological disparity has completely inverted. 5 centuries ago, humanity was the underdog packed into cargo haulers. Now, they are entirely incomprehensible to their former masters.
The interaction at this gateway is incredibly revealing regarding humanity's new operational capacity. The alien representative, terrified by these moving cities, states, "The galaxy is dying." And the human simply replies with 2 words, "We know."
We know. Man, let's dive into the terror of that phrase for the council ambassador.
It's so loaded.
It implies an information asymmetry that is deeply unsettling. Humanity has been separated from known space for half a millennium, yet their intelligence networks or sensory technologies reach so far into the Milky Way that they are already fully aware of a galactic-scale apocalypse.
Right. They haven't been hiding, they've been observing.
Omniscience is far more intimidating than a fleet of warships. It means humanity didn't need the Council, but they were perfectly aware that the Council would eventually need them.
And when the expedition is escorted through the gateway, the true scale of humanity's evolution is laid bare. The text details thousands of artificial worlds, megastructures wrapped around stars, planet-sized shipyards, and entire solar systems engineered by human hands.
We're talking about Kardashev Type 2 or Type 3 civilization markers here. Dyson spheres, stellar lifters, the complete manipulation of stellar energy output.
It's godlike technology.
They haven't just adapted to the universe, they are actively sculpting it to their will. The Council ambassador sees a first fleet of 10,000 capital ships, each presumably capable of cracking a planet.
And based on the Council's own paradigm of how power works, the ambassador must have expected humanity to use this moment for ultimate revenge.
Because that's how the Council operates.
Right. In the Council's worldview, power is used exclusively to dominate or punish. The ambassador is fully braced for the human commander to just let the galaxy burn.
But instead, the commander says, the galaxy abandoned us, but innocent people should not suffer for the mistakes of leaders. We will help.
That is a staggering level of moral maturity.
It really is. After 500 years of harboring the bitter memory of betrayal, passing down stories of the ancestors who died in the dark, this commander instantly separates the corrupt leadership from the innocent billions living on the frontier worlds.
It's a complete rejection of generational vengeance. It proves that their evolution wasn't just technological, it was sociological. They didn't just build better engines, they built a better ethical framework.
But the application of that ethical framework brings us to the actual battlefield, which the text details as a total masterclass in asymmetric warfare.
It's a bloodbath, but for the swarm.
So the swarm is attacking a cluster of 70 inhabited worlds. Billions are trapped. The human fleets arrive. But the text notes they only send 50 vessels.
50.
I got really stuck on this part of the text. Sending 50 ships against an infestation of millions of planet-sized biological weapons isn't brave. Mathematically, it seems suicidal.
On paper.
Unless their weapons aren't directional. Are we talking about area of effect weapons that scale infinitely? Because if you have a first fleet of 10,000 ships, why hold back 9,950 of them while innocent people are being eaten?
That is the crucial distinction between conventional warfare and what humanity is executing here. You're thinking in terms of ballistics and energy yields.
Lasers and missiles.
Exactly. But humanity is operating on the level of metric tensor manipulation bending, the literal fabric of space-time. The text describes humanity activating weapons never before seen. Entire swarm fleets simply vanish. They use stars as weapons. They use gravity as a shield.
Okay, let's break down how a gravity shield actually works in theoretical physics. You aren't putting up a wall of energy. You are creating an intense gravitational lens around your ship.
Right, curving space-time.
The space-time curves so severely that incoming laser fire, kinetic projectiles, or even physical biological attacks literally curve around the ship and continue out the other side.
Like water flowing around a rock.
Yes. The ship sits in a bubble of flat space-time while the universe bends around it.
Precisely. And when they use stars as weapons, they are likely inducing localized gravitational collapses or triggering directed coronal mass ejections.
Weaponized astrophysics.
Right. They aren't fighting within the laws of physics, they are rewriting the laws of physics on the battlefield.
Which means sending exactly 50 ships wasn't a logistical constraint. It was a psychological flex to the observing galaxy.
Well, absolutely.
They are demonstrating that humanity is so fundamentally untouchable by this threat that they only need a microscopic fraction of their power to swat it away. Imagine being one of the trapped billions on those 70 worlds.
Waiting to die.
You're waiting to be consumed by a planet-sized biological terror, and suddenly 50 moving cities warp in, bend the fabric of reality, and the invasion force is destroyed in hours.
The victory is absolute and overwhelming. But, and this is where everything shifts, the data captured from the destroyed swarm drops a bombshell that completely changes the scale of the narrative.
With a huge twist.
The terrifying, planet-consuming void swarm, the force that nearly broke the 10,000 World Council in 3 months, wasn't an invading army.
They were refugees. They were running.
This introduces a chilling concept regarding the food chain of the cosmos. If this swarm is the monster hiding under the galaxy's bed, what on earth is the swarm hiding from?
There's always a bigger fish.
The text reveals it's an ancient machine civilization, an intelligence older than the galaxy itself. The swarm had been fleeing them for millennia, and now the machines have arrived at the galactic edge.
The numbers the text uses here are just staggering. Sensors detected trillions of warships. Trillions!
It's an impossible number.
It says it's an impossible number. For the first time in centuries, even humanity is facing uncertainty. You can swat a biological swarm with 50 reality-bending ships, but trillions of ancient machine ships is a math problem that sheer brute force cannot solve.
Which necessitates the events of the Last Alliance. For the first time in history, every major species, including humanity, unites, not by a council decree, but out of sheer, undeniable existential terror.
I love the logistical pivot humanity makes here. They don't hoard their god-tier technology behind the gateway.
They open it up.
The source says human engineers upgraded alien fleets, shared advanced tech, and human shipyards worked without rest. They turned the entire defensive effort into one giant galactic co-op project.
They really did.
They spent 2 years elevating everyone else to their level just to stand a chance.
Consider the cultural friction of that 2-year period, too. You have human engineers boarding the dreadnoughts of the very species that banished their ancestors, having to teach these alien crews how to interface with higher dimensional technology.
It requires profound patience.
And an absolute suspension of ego. It is the ultimate culmination of their identity as builders and protectors.
It all leads to the final battle near the galactic core. The text is very evocative here. Machine fleets darkened entire sectors. Stars exploded, worlds shook.
It's cosmic-scale destruction.
It is a battle of unimaginable attrition against an enemy that doesn't feel fear, doesn't need supply lines, and operates with trillions of discrete units.
In the midst of this overwhelming attrition, humanity plays their ultimate card, the Horizon Array.
The big gun.
The text explains it is a network built during their centuries of exile, powered by hundreds of stars, capable of manipulating space-time across the entire galaxy.
Let's think about the energy requirements for that. To manipulate space-time on a galactic scale, you aren't just siphoning a little plasma from a sun.
No, you need way more power.
You are likely utilizing the rotational energy of pulsars, or dropping mass into black holes to harvest the Hawking radiation, networking hundreds of stellar mass engines together to fire a single pulse of altered reality.
And the poetic symmetry of the Horizon Array cannot be overstated here.
What do you mean?
The very time the Council gave humanity as a punishment, those 500 years in the Dark Void, was the exact time humanity used to build the only tool capable of saving the Council from a threat older than time. The punishment literally engineered the salvation.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of it that way.
It's perfectly symmetrical.
The activation of it is so cinematic. A single order. Activate. Light spreads. Reality trembles. And the machine armada, trillions of ships, just vanishes. Gone.
Erased.
The war ends in a single second. The greatest threat in the universe is erased by manipulating the foundational fabric of reality.
This creates the most significant power vacuum in the history of the galaxy.
Yeah.
The ancient machines are gone, the swarm is neutralized, and the Galactic Council is militarily exhausted.
Humanity is basically standing alone.
Right. Humanity stands alone as the undisputed apex power, which brings us to the climax. The judgment.
The dust has settled, the galaxy is saved, and the Galactic Council gathers to honor humanity. The exact same institution that kicked them out.
They must have been terrified.
Oh, they had to be. They offer humanity everything. Power, control, leadership, and finally an apology. They hand humanity the keys to a 10,000-world empire on a silver platter.
The Council's offer reveals that they have learned nothing about humanity's actual evolution.
Nothing at all.
The Council still assumes that power, dominance, and control are the ultimate goals of any sentient species, because that is the only paradigm they understand. You win the war, you take the throne.
But humanity's response completely shatters the Council's worldview. The human representative listens to this offer of infinite power and then simply says, "We do not seek revenge. We do not seek control. We only ask that no species is ever abandoned again."
It's beautiful.
It is the ultimate flex. You have the power to rule the entire galaxy. You have every right to be furious, but you just look at them, tell them to be better people, and then you turn around and walk away.
The text notes the leaders lowered their heads, ashamed. Humanity achieved ultimate victory, not through the Horizon Array, but through mercy.
That's the real victory.
True power, as demonstrated by humanity in this narrative, isn't the ability to destroy an armada. True power is the ability to hold absolute, unquestionable dominion over your former oppressors, and consciously choosing not to abuse it.
That leads perfectly into the epilogue of the sources. Years later, humans are leading new expeditions, but the text is very careful to specify their role.
They are not ruling the galaxy.
No, they are not conquering. They are leading as pioneers. They are heading back out beyond the galaxy.
It brings the narrative arc to a brilliant close.
Hmm.
In the beginning, they were forced into the unknown as traumatized outcasts. Now, at the end, they are willingly leading the galaxy into the unknown as highly evolved guardians.
The children of the galaxy look up at the stars and say, never underestimate humanity. It's an incredible journey from a rogue police force, banished by a single vote, learning to master reality in the dark, returning to squash a biological apocalypse, erasing an ancient machine armada, and choosing the high road of mercy over the throne of the galaxy.
It serves as a profound meditation on how adversity can force the evolution of not just technology, but of empathy.
Empathy, yeah. Before we wrap up this deep dive into these sources, I want to leave you listening right now with one final provocative thought to ponder.
Oh, I'm curious.
Something that has been nagging at me from the text. At the very end, humanity leads fleets out beyond the galaxy into the absolute unknown. But think about what we just learned.
About the machines.
Right. The ancient machines they defeated were older than the galaxy and commanded trillions of ships. Humanity's sensory tech could see across the cosmos. So, what exactly did humanity see out there in the really deep dark that requires a reality-bending civilization to keep pushing outward?
What else is waiting beyond the map?
Exactly. Keep your eyes on the stars, and we'll see you next time.